Hi, Martha. Good to see you. Over from LA. And normally I only see you on your Instagram, being like Mrs. LA.
It's nice to see you in 3D though, because I usually just see you front on.
Yeah, you're only saying that because you want me to say I cut myself shaving on the back of my head.
I did.
You happy now?
I did notice the cut on the back of your head.
Yeah,
I would have missed that if we'd have been doing it remotely.
Well, I am James Matthews.
And I'm Martha Kelner.
And you're listening to day 65 of Trump 100, on which there's news of an astonishing breach of security. It's the story of the military attack, the group chat of Trump's top team, and the journalist that they added accidentally.
And the wartime law used to deport migrants. It's a big issue and it's back in court.
And the president and the portrait that puts on a few pounds. He's not happy.
Straight to the story of the day here in Washington. And what an astonishing story this is. An incredible breach of security. It's been revealed by the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic magazine. Picture the scene. He looks at his phone a couple of weeks ago, middle of March, to find he's been added to a group chat on the Signal app. Signal's sort of a glorified WhatsApp. It's an encrypted messaging service. He gets a connection request from Michael Waltz, Trump's national security advisor, has the same name. 2 days later, he gets a message saying it was going to be called the Houthi PC small group. It turns out that this was a group chat for key players in the Trump administration who were coordinating attack on Houthi rebels in Yemen.
Yeah, and in due course, enter this group chat a number of well-known handles like J.D. Vance, name of the Vice President, Pete Hegseth, name of the Defence Secretary. So the journalist involved, Jeffrey Goldberg, he was getting these messages. And from Hegseth, there was information about a US strike about to happen in Yemen. Targets, weapons, attack sequencing. Sure enough, at the very time one of these texts said there would be an attack, Houthi targets in Yemen were bombed. It is an astonishing breach of security. Donald Trump was asked about it at a news conference earlier on.
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of The Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business. I think it's not much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it. You're saying that they had what?
They were using Signal to coordinate on sensitive materials and
having to do with what? Having to do with what? What were they talking about?
With the Houthis.
The Houthis? You mean the attack on the Houthis? Right. Well, it couldn't have been very effective because the attack was very effective, I can tell you that.
And this journalist, Jeffrey Goldberg, he's reading these messages and at first he can't believe what he's seeing. He thinks it's a hoax. He thinks it's some attempt at trying to trick him as a journalist. But eventually, after discussing it with colleagues, he comes to realise that actually this is real life and he's been added to a group by the very top-ranking members of Donald Trump's cabinet. Aside from the obvious security breaches here, what's fascinating as well are some of the text exchanges in the group chat. J.D. Vance, who up until now publicly has been a very loyal vice president. He's not criticised or questioned the president publicly on anything, basically. At one point, he does put daylight between himself and Donald Trump. He writes in this Signal group, "I'm not sure the president is aware how inconsistent this is with his message on Europe right now." Later, he writes to Pete Hegseth, "If you think we should do it, let's go. I just hate bailing Europe out again." So he's clearly at odds here with what President Trump wants to do in regards to the strikes on the Houthis. Pete Hegseth replies 3 minutes later, "VP," he writes, "I fully share your loathing of European freeloading," he says. "It's pathetic written in capital letters." And he goes on to say, "We're the only ones on the planet on our side of the ledger who can do this." He's talking about the protection of international shipping lanes and how it falls to the Americans. And he's not happy about that, is he?
There were 18 people in this group chat. And, we're talking about a military strike. It couldn't have been more sensitive, life and death stuff. And it reads like lads arranging a night out. The details are just jaw-dropping. And they're also excruciating. After the bombs were dropped, Michael Waltz responded with a fist emoji, an American flag, and that fire emoji. And, there's loads of that. Good job, Pete, and your team. Amazing job. Kudos to all. Just before the attack, J.D. Vance had written, "I will say a prayer for victory." 2 others on the group added prayer emojis.
When I read this article, James, it truly is jaw-dropping. Just the fact that this is even taking place on Signal and not on some secure government communications platform. B, that there's not been more care taken over who are the recipients in this group. I mean, I've been invited to weddings over the summer and I'm going to be a bridesmaid. We've taken more care ensuring that the bride is not on certain WhatsApp groups where we're discussing, presents and hen do's and things than they have about organising these strikes on the Houthis in Yemen and who should be privy to that information. It's wild.
Yeah, for all the seriousness involved, it reads, doesn't it, like satire?
Yeah, it really is. And I was down on the Hill today speaking to some of the House representatives down there. And they were just digesting the news and how consequential this could be. A lot of them calling for investigations, full investigations. Among them, the Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer, calling for a full investigation. Listen to what Representative Jamie Raskin had to say to me.
It, to me, seems like characteristic sloppiness and negligence on behalf of the Trump administration. They've issued dozens of executive orders and actions that have been struck down by federal courts that are just plainly unlawful, and yet they proceed to engage in lawless action anyway. And this is such a basic error to be talking about war plans and military strategy in such a sloppy and open and public way. And almost certainly there were crimes committed in the process.
With little fire and fist bump emojis, is that an appropriate way to be discussing launching military strikes?
Let's just say it doesn't surprise me coming from this crowd.
The White House are now confirming this story as well, aren't they? A spokesman for the National Security Council said the message thread appears to be authentic and that the administration is reviewing how an inadvertent number was added to the chain. Talking of America's national security, though, last week Donald Trump was facing questions over Elon Musk and his invitation to the Pentagon, whether Musk was being shown secret war plans with China, should it ever come to that. The administration pushed back hugely on that questioning, making a particular point that they're careful over who sees national security documents and who doesn't. They were robust in their denials. And knowing what we know now, listen to Pete Hegseth that same day. Donald Trump was announcing a deal for military aircraft, and Hegseth was pretty strident.
Under the previous administration, we looked like fools. Not anymore. President Trump has reestablished American leadership. The F-47 is part of it. And Mr. President, thank you for having the courage to do it and leading the way for all our warfighters.
Thank you very much, Pete.
And there is the matter of legality in all this. Specifically, was there a breach of the Espionage Act? A number of lawyers on this side of the Atlantic, they've weighed in to say, yes, absolutely there is, on a number of levels. Signal, this app, it's not approved by the US government for the sharing of classified information. Discussion of military activity, that should take place inside something they call a SCIF, a sensitive compartmented information facility.
There's a question, isn't there, as well, over whether or not the people on this Signal chain were out and about on their phones having these conversations, which then begs the question, what would have happened if one of those mobile phones was lost, if it was picked up by someone? It shouldn't have been. I mean, the list of questions and potential security breaches are endless here.
Yeah, I think, Martha, even for the Teflon Don, this has to be extremely damaging. It's a major scandal at the heart of his administration that put American lives at risk. And he stands at a news conference and claims to know nothing about it. If that's the case, then that is scandal squared. The follow-up questions there were, well, if you don't know about the mistake, why don't you know about it?
Yeah.
Do you know the military plans were being laid out on the Signal app? Did you endorse that? Who else could have had access to Signal? You're going to tell me the Russians and Chinese aren't all over that? And, what other classified material is being discussed in these kind of group chats? And of course, remember, this is a man, and these are the very people who are negotiating right now with Vladimir Putin and everything that rests on that. This is an arrogant president who likes to project a strength and certainty, which he's going to need going forward. Whether he possesses it is an open question. It's more open right now than it was at the start of the day. Yeah, I think it exposes an utter recklessness that can only undermine Trump in the eyes of his supporters as much as anybody else. This is a matter of fact. This took place. There are no political gymnastics that he can pull to disguise the fact that this was nothing other than amateur, no question.
Truly. I'm sure we'll hear a lot more of that in the days to come.
Yeah.
It's overshadowed everything else that was going on today. But we can't let today's cabinet meeting pass without a quick reference. This was the third cabinet meeting that we know about that Donald Trump has held since he became president for the second time. Again, he was surrounded by his cabinet secretaries and a man who isn't a cabinet secretary but seems to be invited to all these meetings, Elon Musk. And there was no shortage of love shown between the two men.
Doffing their caps in the court of King Donald. There has become a normality about that because I think we see it on a constant basis. But it's worth just playing it, I think, Martha, and just worth noting the behaviour on display, that absolute adulation for the President of the United States. We've not seen that in our time before, and it is quite the spectacle and says something about the President, his presidency, and the people around him.
Thanks to President Trump and so many that have worked so hard, the price of eggs are coming down, as well as the price of groceries.
I'm very grateful to you and very grateful for the partnership with Doge, with Elon.
Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity to do this for the American public.
Yeah, it's almost what you would see in a dictatorship.
Yeah.
This idea that it's not really an open forum, it's more just a forum to suck up to the man in charge.
Yeah.
And, you know, this endless flattery and almost a one-upmanship as they went round the table. Who can say the nicest things about Donald Trump? And then you have Elon Musk sat wearing a red MAGA cap this time that read on the front of it, Donald Trump is right about everything. You know, it was an exhibition in blowing smoke up the president's, you know what.
Falling over themselves.
Anyway, moving on from that cabinet meeting, while J.D. Vance and Mike Waltz are dealing with the fallout from the Atlantic group chat blunder, they're also going to be dealing with a potentially hostile reception from Greenlanders. J.D. Vance's wife, Usha Vance, the second lady, and National Security Advisor Waltz.
Yeah, he'll be travelling economy, I take it, after today.
Donald Trump says he's got every faith in him, so...
Oh dear, kiss of death.
They're on their way to Greenland this week. Greenland's Prime Minister, Mute Biega, easy for some to say, he's called on the international community to step in and has accused Washington of foreign interference. It's a curious trip, isn't it, for the second lady to be making?
Yeah, I think unnerving if you're a Greenlander. You hear a running commentary from Donald Trump about his territorial ambitions for the land that you inhabit. And of course, that drumbeat hasn't gone away. It's merely got louder steadily. So you've got Mike Waltz, he's visiting a military base. Usha Vance, she's going to attend dog sled racing, which is nice. Yeah, interesting move. I mean, she's visited Paris and India, the second lady, but Greenland at this time, I wonder how many people in Greenland see this as a sort of soft play by the Americans. Introduce the second lady, an acceptable interface between two sides of a conversation that's become difficult. The difficulty for Trump, of course, is that, you know, in his belligerent approach, he's pushing Greenlanders closer to Denmark. I read a few analysts saying this on the ground, saying that, you know, that Denmark-Greenland relationship has become strained over the years, and yet it's being strengthened by the spectre of Trump and takeover.
Yeah, while all that is happening, there's also this legal battle rumbling on, this war of words between President Trump and the judiciary, specifically over the president's use of wartime powers to deport foreign migrants. So Trump's issue has been with Judge James Boasberg's temporary restraining order, which is blocking the use of the 1798 Alien Enemies Act to deport plane loads of alleged Venezuelan gang members without due process. And this is now in the appeals process.
Yeah, there's a 3-judge panel deciding whether or not a lower court can hear and address the Trump administration's deportation of migrants under this 18th century wartime law in which we've all become experts. They've already declined a Trump bid to remove Judge Boasberg from the case and to lift a temporary restraining order on these deportations, which is something that he had placed. We've had some of the arguments from Judge Patricia Millett. She said, and get this, Nazis got better treatment under the Alien Enemies Act, an analogy that was disputed by Drew Ensign. He's the Deputy Assistant Attorney General.
So, yeah, we'll see how this plays out. It's obviously got a long way to go. The Supreme Court presumably beckons down the line, and that will be quite the showdown with implications clearly far beyond this case alone.
Right, Martha. Now, I'm going to show you a painting. It's a portrait of Donald Trump. I'll describe it for the listeners. He's looking very official. Not much of an expression. Red tie, US flag pin. Tell me, Martha, what do you think of it?
I don't think it's all that offensive. I think it's pretty lifelike. Do you remember the story a few years ago of that statue of Cristiano Ronaldo?
Yeah.
And it looked nothing like him.
He hated it.
Sinewy. I kind of understood that. It didn't look a lot like him. This Donald Trump, I'm afraid, is pretty accurate.
Yeah, he's put on a few pounds,
Maybe
hasn't he?
a bit jowly.
Yeah, well, he's not happy. It's a portrait by British artist Sarah Boardman. It's currently hanging in Colorado's state capitol. We're not sure what provoked the reaction from Trump, but react he did on Truth Social. He said it was truly the worst. I would much prefer not having a picture than having this one.
He's accused that portrait of being purposefully distorted to a level that he says he's never seen before. And he also mentioned, didn't he, that Barack Obama's portrait, which had been done by the same artist, was way better. He said that was a great portrait and that the artist must have lost her touch since then.
I think this painting looks like Bernard Manning in a suit. Well, without the laughs.
Oh dear. On that note, that's all for day 65 of Trump 100. If you have any questions for us, you can, of course, get in touch at trump100@sky.uk.
And if you'd like to share your thoughts on our podcast, we have a short survey. We're asking for your input to help us improve all our podcasts at Sky News. You can find that link in the episode description.
Thank you very much for listening. We'll be back tomorrow for day 66.
Bye-bye. Oh, you have to say bye-bye.
Oh, see you then.